Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 65 of Petty Please. Here on the Misty Morrison Podcast, we love to read or listen. We love to see all these stories of pettiness, revenge, malicious compliance, bad neighbors, bad bosses, entitlement, all the things. To be grateful that is not our story. Before we get into our stories for the day, our usual housekeeping, whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage the content to help the channel grow. Engaging online is free and can really help build the dream. If you are listening on podcasts, please leave a 5-star review if you liked it. Everywhere else, give it a like, a heart, a thumbs up. Subscribe for more, hit the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video, and leave a comment with your thoughts on stories down below. Okay. And before we get into our stories for the day, if I look funny, I have a cough drop I'm cheeking because I've had a sore throat all day and I want it to go away. So we'll see if we can get through this with, that was a bug, see if we can get through this with a cough drop and our trusty water bottle. We're doing the best we can. In case you needed to know this, it is very unsafe to play basketball on asphalt with flip-flops. I played in flip-flops last night. I was running to try to get the ball, and my flip-flop was like a foam footbed flip-flop. It rolled up, like the toe of it caught the asphalt, it rolled up under my foot, scraped the whole top of my toe when I just painted my toenails. Went down on my hands and one knee that is completely bandaged up now. I really did a good job on this here. Went down on my hands and my knee scraped the top of my foot, and because I was running, went down with such momentum, I completely rolled over onto my back afterwards. It was comical. But yeah, don't play basketball in flip-flops. Not doing that again. Okay, story number 1. I think I have enough stories saved for today's episode. Oh, and I finally have hair again. I still feel like there's a gap on this side, but I don't know if it's just because the curls didn't separate enough when I let it down, or if there's actually a gap. When I've pulled it out wet, I don't think there's a gap. I think it's just the way it dried. But it's finally touching my shoulders. Barely, but it is. So I'm super excited that I can actually wear it down. It is summertime and it is hot as can be, but it feels really good to not have it clip back. So, yeah. Okay, now into the stories. Apparently I failed to charge my camera because it's already blinking red at me and we're just getting started, but we'll see how far we make it. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/malicious compliance. Coffee cup drama at work. This happened at a college cafeteria where I worked. We used to have to-go cups, but management wanted to save money, so they got rid of the to-go cups, and the only cups available were the regular diner-style ceramic coffee cups. Well, since they took the cups away, I would stop at the cafe on campus and get a to-go coffee, free because I was an employee, because it was a nice large size and would stay hot longer. Our manager in the cafeteria didn't like me using the cafe cups and told me she didn't want me to use them. She said the students would be upset if they saw me with a to-go cup and they had to use the reusable ones. Nonsense, but she was snotty and just liked to jerk around the employees she didn't like. One morning, I decided to jerk back. I went to a convenience mart where they sold the same coffee and used the same to-go cups. I get to work, and you have to know that this boss had eyes in her ass, one of my mom's favorite expressions. She'd be nowhere to be found, but if you did the slightest thing wrong, she'd come out of nowhere at you. Well, I got to work and walked around holding my cup, so it was really noticeable, and here she comes barreling at me and says in her best snotty voice, "Didn't we have a conversation about this?" And says in her best snotty voice, "Didn't we have a conversation about coffee cups?" I said, "Yes, we did, but this was from Sunoco," and presented her with my receipt. Oh, the look on her face was priceless. Best day at work ever. And the first comment says, "Sometimes it is worth the money to be petty." And truly, that was priceless. Yeah, I really didn't have to talk. Well, okay, yeah, no. scratch that. I did talk quite a bit today. I had a couple of meetings. And it's getting harder to talk. Like the itch and the catch in my throat is getting worse. So I'm glad we're recording today because I feel like it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Bathroom cleaning revenge. One night, my husband and I went on a double date with a new friend and her boyfriend. Me and her went to the restroom, and I noticed she didn't flush before leaving her stall. When I asked why, she said it's not her bathroom, so she doesn't have to worry about cleaning it. No. I pause the story. I hate walking into a stall in a bathroom where the toilet hasn't been flushed or didn't flush fully. And if there are other stalls open, I will walk out and try to find a better one. That's gross. After dinner, the 4 of us went back to her place to hang out for a bit. While there, I made as big a mess in her bathroom as possible. Didn't flush the toilet, left toilet paper on the floor, splashed water on the mirror, and me and my husband left. She called me later that night and asked me about the mess in the bathroom. I repeated her words from earlier that night to her and hung up. Needless to say, we are not friends anymore. I love that you immediately, like the moment she did that in the public restroom, decided that she was not your type of person. You didn't care to be friends with her anymore. And as soon as you had the opportunity to make her eat those words, you did. I'm glad your husband was on board. Because, yeah, that's awful. Regardless of whether or not you have to clean it, someone else has to clean it. That's not pleasant for them. That's not pleasant for the people coming after you just to use the bathroom stall. No, that's selfish, that's lazy, and that's gross. I was in a public restroom just yesterday, the day before. Anyway, one day this week. And no, it was last week. Not the point. And there was a lady that came in after me, got done first, and I got done first, I was washing my hands. There were 2 sinks available. She went to the sink next to me, turned the water on, just barely got her hands wet, flicked them off, and dried them off. Those hands are not clean. That is not washing your hands. That was barely rinsing your hands. Those hands are not clean. That is disgusting. Wash your hands. I'm very particular about certain things, like washing your hands. And when my son was real little, the first time, not too little, maybe he was 5, the first time we went to the movie theater. And so he said he didn't have to go, so I was in a stall in the ladies' room, and I told him to wait in the corner, like outside the stall. So he's waiting in the corner, another lady came in, she got done, and she walked out. And I was still in the stall. And I was about to come out, and I hear him say from the corner by the door, in his full outside voice, "Ew, that lady didn't wash her hands." And I hope she heard him. To this day, I hope she heard him and realized that even a 5-year-old knew not washing your hands was disgusting. So there's a comment on here that says, "I guess you showed her how shitty it can be when people don't clean up after themselves." And then a following comment that says, a pretty fitting way to get the point across, honestly. Sometimes people only get it when they're on the receiving end. And that is true. Like, for sometimes, and probably for a person like this, you can tell them why their behavior is wrong and what's bad about it and how it affects other people. And they just won't care until that type of behavior finally affects them. And then they have that aha moment of, oh, crap. So yeah, you did a good deed this day. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. I got revenge with orange juice. Before I begin, I know a lot of people have strong feelings about tipping culture in the USA. While this story relates to tipping, that isn't the point of the story or the reason I felt like I needed to get revenge. With that in mind, back in 2011 or so, I was working at a local restaurant in my hometown. It was the only Greek restaurant in town, and it was small but was a small but popular place. We had a lot of repeat customers and often were quite busy even on normal weeknights. It's worth noting that this is not an affluent town. One such regular customer was the Thompson family. I have no idea what their names are. Mom, dad, 3 kids, probably under 10 years old. Mom and the kids were always fine, but man, the dad in this family was so rude from day one. They came in 1 to 2 times per week, and every time this guy used to bark at me and the other servers from across the room about everything, leave huge messes, but worst of all, these kids slurped down 3 to 5 sodas each during their visits. While this in itself isn't a big deal, every time one of the kids finished their drink, which was every couple of minutes, the dad would yell at us across the room, "More soda!" It sounds ridiculous, but this guy was ridiculous. It didn't help that the guy also never left a tip. Eventually, the owner started offering breakfast on the weekends, which turned out to be quite popular. One morning, the Thompsons rolled in during the middle of the morning rush. Not these guys again. As they sat down, the intrusive thoughts won. Before they could order their sodas, I said, "Hey gang, who wants orange juice?" The orange juices were $3 each and didn't have free refills, as stated on the menu. Everyone got orange juice. Per usual, every few minutes he'd shout, "More juice! More syrup! More napkins!" We had to go to the grocery store across the plaza. They drank so much juice. Damn. Each time I added another juice to the ticket. Eventually, when it was time for them to go, I looked at their ticket and saw they had consumed 13 juices between them. There was an item on the bill for $39 for just juice. Damn. Adjusted for inflation, this is about $57 today. Whoa. I placed the bill on the table and left the area, not knowing what this person was capable of aside from yelling and being rude. I peeked around the corner and saw him looking at the bill, then the menu about the juice, and then back at the bill. Eventually, they paid the bill and left. No tip, obviously. Never saw them again after that. Hope they're doing okay. Good for you. Good for you. I mean, I hate that they never came back to patronize the business again. I kind of wish this could have been a story of like actually teaching him to behave better. But I'm glad he did at least realize the error of his ways. I don't know if he was, I don't think he was embarrassed. He doesn't sound like the kind of guy that gets embarrassed over his actions. But I'm glad you didn't have to deal with them again. That's lovely. Story number 4. I don't know how I cut my finger and it's kind of stinging. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Someone claimed the best hot desk for themselves by leaving their garbage. We have a few dozen hot desks that are open for anybody to use. No seating is reserved or assigned. Some people are particular about desk height, the way their monitors are set up, etc. They pick a workstation far away from the door because most of us grab the nearest seat to do their work and leave. But not this guy. He claimed the very first desk nearest the door. Someone walking straight through the door would hit the chair at the desk. He made it look like it was constantly in use by leaving his coffee cups and other garbage on it. Now everybody has to pass by his garbage on their way in and out. He is only there for a few hours per week. The paper coffee cups had that staining at the bottom when they had been sitting there for a long time. I used that desk just to spite him. It helps pass the office boredom, and it is fun to mess with these kinds of people. He is short, so I always raised it to be a standing desk and adjusted the monitors as tallest as I could stand. To show intent, I tangled up the headset cable with the keyboard cable. He never said anything if he saw me working there. He strengthened his claim by adding more garbage, making it less appealing and look more like it was in use. Late Friday, while the office was nearly empty, I went through the recycle bin to triple his garbage heap. Someone caught me doing it and laughed. It was the first thing that the manager saw when opening the office on Monday. Now we have signs at each desk reminding us of basic cleanliness principles for our shared desk spaces. No more camping/garbage at the desks near the door. He probably effed off to some desk in the back like he should have in the first place. Good for you. I mean, I hate that I took adding more trash and essentially everybody getting in trouble for it. But, I mean, yeah, you taught him. I love it. I love the part where to really show intent. I tangled, because that will be so annoying to have to unwrap the headset cable and the keyboard cable, because I can just see you like holding the keyboard up in the air and going around and around with the headset. That could have been so comical to watch. Story number 5 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Sending polite email to a supervisor at work. I'm going to do my best to tell the story without giving away details of what I do because it's very niche and I don't want to talk to anyone here about it, lol. Basically, my job is to do some paperwork based on information salesmen gather. Naturally, if the salesman fails to gather all the required information, it is also part of my job to ask them to actually do their job. Salesmen here seem to be bad at that part. So, one particular salesman, let's call them Sam, messed up so bad that not only was there absolutely no information gathered, but the assignment didn't even appear in my queue. So we only found it because of a third party who happened to stumble upon it. I emailed Sam and CC'd his supervisor. We'll call them Alex. For this next part, it's important to know there are 3 types of tickets we can get assignments from. I'll call them A, B, and C type tickets. Type A is normal and common. Type B is less common but not unexpected, and Type C is very rare. After some time, Alex responded on behalf of Sam and essentially said that because it was a Type C ticket, it prevented the form from properly being filled out. This doesn't make sense because the ticket type has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not I can find or work on the assignment. It's an option within all tickets the salesman has to select, and Sam selected the wrong one. Really, not that big of a deal, and I still don't know why they were trying so hard to act like it wasn't Sam's fault. Like, if we want people to improve, acknowledge the mistakes and learn. Anyway, supervisors of salesmen tend to bend rules because they want their bonus and shit. It really pisses me off because they will straight up allow some of them to lie to customers just because it was a high-value sale. Knowing their excuse didn't make any sense, and also my general resentment for their tendency to not care about anything but money, I decided to go along with what they were trying to get away with. I emailed back something along the lines of, this shouldn't impact whether or not the assignment is able to be viewed or completed. I know Type C tickets are rare, and I'm admittedly not familiar with them. If there is an issue in the system preventing Type C tickets from being able to be fulfilled in the same way as Types A and B, perhaps we should look into a solution for this to avoid future similar situations. Essentially forcing Alex to either acknowledge that their shitty excuse didn't actually mean anything, or to keep going along with it and pretend to work on a solution. I know if they do the latter option, they'll have to show someone that you can't select the correct option in Type C tickets, which won't be possible because it does in fact work. Either way, they are forced to admit they either lied or have been inadequate. I'm usually the kind of person to just move on when I know someone is just being stupid to get away with stuff, if it doesn't really impact me. But I guess that day, I was just too tired of it. They haven't responded. And this was 16 days ago, they haven't responded. There's no update or anything on the post. But yeah, I mean, I like the way you went about it. You didn't call them out. You didn't call them liars or stupid or lazy or inadequate. You just forced their hand. And I really like that tactic of pushing someone into the corner where you know you need to get a response. And it generally does take time because they're probably sitting there like, oh shit, what do we do now? Like, we've lied ourselves into this corner. So yeah, I'm glad you pushed. I'm really curious how they responded. Story number 6 is coming to us from r/neighbors from hell. Literally enormous medical headphones didn't deter. Now what? This one is labeled, what would you do, vent/rant. Hey all, I have possibly the world's largest headphones because of my disability. I also have a very intrusive neighbor who doesn't seem to understand social cues well. If I go outside, so does she, and I can't be in my own backyard without her either yelling over to me or walking to our property line to speak with me. The vibes is she treats me as if I am in her backyard, not my own space. It is to the point where I no longer enjoy being outside, yet gardening is my biggest hobby. Even though I don't like it, I decided to wear my giant noise-canceling over-the-ear headphones outside while I garden now. I have intense noise sensitivities. Um, it's a TBI, traumatic brain injury, from a hit and run. So bonus that it drowns out the aching constant drone of suburban motors. My thinking was, well, I would personally never yell over to someone I don't know well, in their own backyard, who's wearing big obvious headphones unless it was an emergency. This neighbor, I think, feels entitled to talk to me if I am within her eyesight, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. So I decided to plant a privacy hedge. A fence can't work in the space, sadly, so that is not on the table. Too many big trees, too expensive. So I'm out there planting a literal hedge with these little baby plants wearing headphones, and I can hear her screaming my name even through the headphones. I do my best to pretend that I cannot hear her, but when I look up, she is right in front of me, waving, asking me inane questions that she could easily Google herself. I know that not everyone will understand TBI or the concept of spoons, but I only have so many spoons for socializing in a day, which I save for conversing with my family and my neuro rehab therapists. Definitely not for weirdo, off-putting neighbors. Long story short, since my headphone idea has spectacularly failed, what other ideas do you guys have? I don't want to be on bad terms with this lady. I just want to be left alone in peace. And I'm not comfortable just telling her outright to leave me alone when I'm outside. When I'm really stressed, my brain sort of stops working. Think of it like getting tongue-tied. I feel she is aggressively choosing to ignore my boundaries at this point, though she seems more oblivious than hostile. She is not old or lonely. She lives with her husband and daughter. Open to suggestions or things that have worked for you that I may try as well. Thanks for reading. So for anyone not familiar, the idea of spoons is kind of like a visual representation of a person's capacity. So like you have like a spoon like you eat soup with. And everyone has one spoon. But how big? Okay, camera died when we were so close to being done. So I don't know where I left off on the theory of, or the concept of spoons as far as capacity. So theoretically, everyone has one spoon, but your spoon may be different, maybe a bigger size than my spoon. I may have a teaspoon, you may have a tablespoon. And so it's just kind of more of a visual way of showing, why I might get tired sooner than you, or, you might be able to climb more stairs than me. It just is a visual way to represent that everyone's different and we all have our own capacity and our own limitations. But yeah, because your hobby is gardening, so I think your planted hedge is going to turn out really cute. I just wish you were able to use hedges that were already a pretty good size to keep her physically out of your space. I'm worried she's just going to trample your hedges because she does seem to be oblivious. You may need to ask someone else to have a word with her on your behalf. Yeah. So we're going to read one more. Story number 7 is coming to us from r/neighbors from hell. Every single night for 2 hours nonstop is crazy. My neighbor does this knife dance from 7 to 8:30 p.m. for 6 months. What is it? This one is labeled apartment NFH. Current theories from casual conversation. Oh, original post below. So we're going to read the original post. My neighbor has a 2-hour nightly knife dance ritual. I need theories. Every single night for 2 hours nonstop is crazy. For the last 6 months, from about 7 to 8:30 p.m., sometimes longer, my neighbor above me does this. It sounds like rhythmic tapping/clanking, like knives or metal. Sometimes there's shuffling like dance steps. No music, no talking, just tap tap, swish, tap tap, ping, nonstop. I always assumed belly dancing with finger cymbals, but last night I actually timed it and she went for 2 hours straight without stopping. I'm not mad. I actually do a little dance in my kitchen when I hear it start, lol. But the curiosity is killing me. She's probably mid-20s as far as I know. Never hear music, just the rhythm. Any dancers / martial artists / chefs / creators recognize this? What ritual needs 2 hours of knife sounds every single night? To be clear, I will not confront her about this. I believe people should be doing what makes them happy. I just want theories. The first comment says, go upstairs and ask her. Maybe you'll make a new friend. Or get stabbed. Could go either way. OP replied and said, I respect her privacy and my arteries too much for that. If she's trading for revenge, I'm not about to become collateral damage. Knife Sprite gets to keep her mysteries. Oh, that's funny. Follow-up comment says, honestly, asking sounds like the only way to solve this mystery, but I'd keep a safe distance while doing it. And so then the update at the top of the post says, current theories from casual conversation. Tai Chi sword forms, Yakuza boss training, Britney knife dance tribute, NFH, help me figure this out before I lose my mind. I think you're just going to lose your mind. Like, if you're not willing to ask her, and I get that you're trying to respect her privacy, but if you're not so curious that you're willing to ask her, then I think this is going to be left up to your imagination. All right, I only charged the camera for like 4 minutes. And it's blinking at me again. So that was 7 stories for this week's episode of Petty Please. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Remember, start each day with a grateful heart. Kindness changes everything. I'll see you guys next time. Share it with a friend. Bye.